Why should you have students serving in youth ministry? Hey everybody, my name is Ronald Long. I've been a youth minister for about 16 years now, and one of the things that's been incredibly helpful to me in how I do youth ministry was looking at how students could have buy-in and leadership opportunities inside of the youth ministry. And so what I mean when I say that is I'm talking about what does student leadership look like in youth ministry? What do you give away? Who should you let serve? Why do you have a student leadership team in the first place? That's what I'm hoping to answer in the next couple of videos that we're going to be doing here on Youth Ministry Insider. So if you haven't, please do me a favor, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. That would be really great. And while I'm talking, feel free. I can't see you. This is YouTube. Put a comment down below to let me know why you have students serving in student ministry, and maybe we'll find out if we agree on stuff. That could be cool, right? I think that'd be a fun experiment. So here are 4 reasons why students should be serving in your student ministry, and boom, there we go. The first reason that I put is that it fosters faith growth now. That's a big deal for students who are growing in their faith. And I would even say it's a big deal for you as a youth pastor who is trying to get students to serve and to grow in their faith. If you're ministering to students and you feel like, my kids aren't growing, maybe they're not taking that next step in their faith. You keep challenging them to share gospel with their friends or start service opportunities and things like that. And you're just finding that your students are having a really hard time taking that step from this is my faith, I come to church, I believe this, to this is what it looks like in action to me. Then having student leadership opportunities or even student volunteering opportunities are a great way for your students to begin to put their faith into practice. And especially, this is really important, in a place where they already feel safe. You're not asking them to go and serve in a foreign country. You're not asking them to go and to do something where everybody's hostile towards Jesus. This is inside the church. This is in the youth ministry, and it's going to be something that they can do right now that will help them to spiritually mature. Hey, this is Ronald interrupting myself, I guess. I just wanted to remind you that down below in the description, there is a email newsletter sign up where you can sign up to receive just a weekly email from me that tells you that the video is live and gives you a summary of it. And it also gives you 3 huge gifts. Number 1 is a 30-day youth pastor challenge where you attempt to become a better youth pastor over 30 days, where I guide you through what that looks like over some really short videos and some emails. There's also the How to Survive Youth Ministry emergency guide. Super helpful thing about 4 things that youth pastors really struggle with, which is parents, volunteers, student attendance, and fundraising. And then lastly, every quarter I release a series for you that has tons of graphics and resources and small group leader guides and parent manuals and all this kind of stuff that I give right to you in your inbox, all for just signing up to my email list. Thanks so much. Back to the video. But this is also something that's really important, and I don't want us to miss either. It also prepares them for not only future leadership, but future faith. I remember when I went off to college that I was like a pastor's kid. I had been in church my whole life, and I remember going to church not with the idea of I'm going to go to church and I'm going to sit here with my arms crossed and think about all the stuff that people should be teaching me. But I went to church with the mindset of how can I serve? And that actually put me on the church service tear down and set up team. I went to a church in a box, a church plant when I was in college, and we met in a high school. So that meant when I showed up and was done, I saw people like beginning to take stuff down and remove things from this high school auditorium and kind of put them into storage someplace. And I stepped in and said, "Hey, I'd like to help. Do you guys need a hand? Like, would you like some help with that?" And because I did that, I was put on a team and immediately found community in college in the first church that I went to. I know as a youth pastor, that's something I want for my students when they graduate from not only youth ministry, but school, move off, start a new church. I want them to find and understand that church is more than just going and sitting down. It's actually going and serving, equipping the saints. And if we model that for them now in youth ministry and help them to learn what that's like and how they can do that, that is something they will then put into practice later when they are going off into their adult lives. They'll know that they go to church not just to go and like sit in a pew, sing some songs and leave, but they go to serve, to find a place to fit in and belong. And we do that by preparing them for future leadership right now. Another thing that I think is huge when it comes to why we should have students serving is it creates ministry buy-in. Students who are actively involved in what you're creating and what you're doing and why, it will help them be more involved and have them be able to be more participatory, if you will, to use a big word. I know a lot of youth pastors talk about that they're disappointed with the amount of attendance that their students have. Like, the lack of attendance in youth group is a big deal. I know this because I interviewed somewhere around 50 to 100 youth pastors and have put together the Emergency Guide to Surviving Youth Ministry, which you can find down below in the comments, dealing with the top 4 things that I found youth pastors were most frustrated with. And one of them was attendance. How do you get students to attend? This is a way to get students to show up at youth group. Give them jobs that are important and they feel strongly about. When they have a sense of belonging to the youth ministry, not just, hey, I show up and I'm a number, but I show up and I have a role, it helps them to advocate for the ministry, which is huge. Students know you should be advocating for the ministry. You're the youth pastor, right? That's your job. You're supposed to do that. But when students advocate for the ministry because they have buy-in, they're on the worship team, they're an MC, they work the slides, they're on the welcome team, what have you. Because they are doing that, they have an opportunity then to show their peers that youth ministry is important to me and I want you there because I'm there. When you have advocates for youth ministry in your youth students, like huge pay-in of what that does. I remember I had students who wanted to create an event, this huge outreach event at my previous church back in Tennessee. And so we gathered the students who wanted to make this happen and we got to planning, right? We planned what it was going to look like. We planned what it was going to be. We planned the topics, the theme nights, the games, everything. And I remember the students who came and planned this event were totally sold on it. Like I didn't have to convince them to come. They were asking me when they could show up and help out and set up. Not because of anything I had done, but because of the work they had done in the ministry. And so because they help, they're there, they're volunteering, they have a role, a job, they are bought in, and the ministry matters to them more than just showing up on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night. And it is a huge deal. It can be so huge for you and your ministry. And the last thing is it helps model biblical discipleship. Of course it does, right? When you encourage students to live out their faith through service, it's just like Jesus did in the examples that he gave us. Jesus told us that he came to serve. Like, okay, so we should then have our students serving at every opportunity we possibly can. And when we have students serving in these ways and serving in these roles, it changes how they interact with youth ministry. It changes what they do, especially when they see, and this is a freebie, right? When they see their peers serving in big ways, leading in big ways, and when they see that the youth ministry is not run just by adults who are up there and making things happen, but by their peers who are up there who are serving just like Jesus served, it changes the dynamic of a youth ministry. And it can change how you lead as a youth pastor. It's a win-win scenario, and it is a huge thing that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks of how and what and, kind of what it looks like to have a student ministry leadership team. We're going to look at how to have a leadership team. We're going to look at what students can do, and we're going to look at who should be serving on your student leadership team. So we're going to be covering those bases here on Youth Ministry Insiders. Do me a favor, if you are a youth pastor or you're leading students and you are liking this stuff, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to what's going on and like and comment, do all that kind of stuff for me. I would greatly appreciate it. More content is coming your way to be helpful to you in youth ministry. And like I told you earlier, if you have subscribed to that newsletter down below where you can get the emergency guide to the surviving youth ministry, you'll also get a weekly email from me letting you know what the video topic is about and linking it to the YouTube so you don't miss a one. Thank you so much for being around here. Again, my name's Ronald. I don't know everything, but I've certainly made a lot of mistakes in my 16 years of youth ministry, and I want to help you out by showing you what I've learned and making sure that you can be the best youth pastor that you possibly can be. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you next week.